Champions Series, a collaboration with postcoach.ca and the Garage Door Sports Network. I am Nick McVicar, host and owner of the Garage Door Sports Network. And today I am here talking to the men's soccer coach of the reigning collegiate champs in Canada, the Durham Lords, Dave Ashfield. Dave, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Glad you could join us. Happy to have you on, obviously, and we get to talk probably about one of the great moments in the Lord's history. So let's get right into it. We're gonna go back a couple years, back to 2019, obviously, and that was the last time we've had soccer here in Canada, unfortunately. You had a great squad that year, and obviously it comes with a lot of recruitment. What did that squad kind of have that stood out to you the most?
I think resiliency being one. We struggled a little bit in the OUAs. We played well, but we just were lacking that forward bite at in the championship game at the OUs with Sheridan. We played very, very well. Probably matched up against some of the best we had. So I think resiliency, because they really spent the 2 weeks between the OUA getting knocked out and getting into the Nationals, really put their heads back into it. We'd gone through a couple of ups and downs during the season, one being against Algonquin. But I think the resiliency of coming back and accepting the challenges the coaching staff put before them would be the best way to describe that group. Resiliency and really overall speed.
And that's a key, especially in the collegiate ranks. Speed is killer in the CCAAs. You mentioned the loss that you guys had to Sheridan in the Ontario Championships. How were you able to refocus the squad after that? You mentioned the resilience, and obviously they did a little bit on their own, but as a coach, how were you able to kind of refocus them and get them ready, knowing that you were hosting the national championship?
Well, I think what we did was we took a lot of steps that probably some coaches might not have. I had our captain, our left back, Colin. He was available to play against Sheridan, but he had an injury such that I was afraid I'd blow him up and he wouldn't be able to play nationals. So the first coaching decision we really made was to sit Colin out, not even dress him, so that I wasn't tempted to put him into the game and try and change the game that way. So I think that was part and parcel of it, was recognizing who we played against Sheridan versus what we ended up with going into nationals. And it kind of became an experiment as well, because I lost my starting midfielder, Ryan Airley, like right at the end of the game. He went up for a header. There was a clash of heads or elbow to head. I didn't never really see it, and I've never really wanted to go back to see it. Really concerned about the athlete, and he ended up getting concussed. So it ended up actually costing him the nationals. So I'm gaining one for nationals, but I've lost one, and now we're into that realm of how do we fix that and what do we do going into nationals. So I think really the focus is where were we, what did we get there, and overall looking at the game. Like Khalil played left back, played a great game. He had one little minor mistake. Ball gets crossed in, deflects in off one of our guys. We go down 1-0. The second goal I'll give away. That was me again experimenting. At that point, can we push? If we're down in the nationals, can I play three in the back? Can I push players forward? We realized then and there that no, we're probably best suited to stay in our own thing. We tried it. We gave up a second goal against them against 10 men. So it was kind of like, okay, that doesn't work. But the one thing about Coach Jens, myself, Bruce, and John is we sit down and collaborate. We don't look at anything negatively. We look at what happened and what's a positive we can take out of it and how do we grow from there. And then we never bring negative to the team with that. We just accept that something negative's happened. We don't scream and yell. We just go back and we resolve, and we work as a group to solve it and get the team back to where they need to be.
And it's a great mentality to have for sure. I want to get into the nationals now. And as the host, what was that experience like for not only you, but the college that you're a part of and just everyone around coming together for the event?
I mean, first and foremost, I must say that like Durham College is, for a small to medium school, 11,000, 10,000 students, we do a phenomenal job when it comes to hosting national championships. Over the years, we've been known for hosting golf, volleyball, baseball, softball. We did men's soccer 20 years prior to that. So the last time we did men's soccer was 2019, and it was the last time they ever had men and women together in a national championship. 2 teams of 4 hosted, Durham College hosted, and I think that year they won a bronze medal. So you go back to the history of how we've always evolved and done sports. And then the big thing is Ken is always driven to be one step ahead. What can we do better? What can we take? Why can we make this the best event that kids will remember forever? Because part of the college experience is remembering your athletic experience. It's remembering your student experience. And if we have an athletic experience, such as hosting a nationals where people, not only ourselves, but all of the student body can embrace, then Ken always wants to make that the best. From the little things he did for the guys at the hotels, making sure they had all as much swag. They started, and it kind of came in days. Like there was hats, toques, there was scarves, there was sweat tops. Like he just made it so that every day was a new adventure for all of the athletes. So I think overall bringing that in, and then for the school, it's just phenomenal. We had a brand new facility, Bassos Field. We just got permission, like literally the day before, to open our press box. We'd, with construction stuff and meeting standards, we were a little bit behind. The field had been in for a year, but some of the outer buildings and stuff, like we only got to use our change room, these cool custom change rooms, even though they're importables that Ken had built and designed with the design team. We were only able to use them like it was a ball storage until such time as nationals, when we were physically able to go into them the first time. So our guys, there's nameplates. So everything he did about it was first class. And he even did that for the officials coming in. He made sure that everybody enjoyed their experience. And I think that for me stands out as the biggest thing, let alone the athletic performance on the field, which to me was a separate entity to the fact of what did it mean to the school. It meant everything and in the end, winning was the first time that Ken and his staff for 20 plus years, 30 years have put in. It was the first national championship we'd ever won as a host. So that in itself for the school was something, and President Lavisa was something absolutely phenomenal.
It sounds like it, and the fact that they went out of their way to put the name bars up for the referees and that's just a little touch, but I'm guaranteeing it meant so much to everyone involved, because you don't get that kind of experience everywhere.
Well, I think and I think that the lesson that we learned, and every place that we'd gone to see, like in Nanaimo in 2017, we were lucky enough to go there as reigning provincial champions. They did a fantastic job. Ken and I personally went to Charlottetown the next year, which again, we can get into later, but kind of gave me the guise of how was I going to build my 2019 squad? What did I need to fix over my 2017 or even my 2018 squad? I was rebuilding, knowing that we were hosting nationals, but at the same time, what that experience alone was paramount for me to be able to see what I needed and where we needed to excel on the field. And I just think that, you have to include everybody. Officials are a part of it. And it doesn't gain you any extra points on the field. Trust me, there's a couple of times I was left shaking my head, but all of us are like that. We're holding on 3-2 and it's like they get a free kick and you're like, our guy just got slaughtered and the free kick has now gone the other way. Okay. But the one thing we don't get at is at officials. So, it doesn't affect us in that way, but I mean, it's making the experience good for everybody, because at the same time, we're trying to win a championship. They're also trying to teach and influence the officials of the future. So a lot of the officials that were in were new officials, newer to that hope being involved in that championship environment. So they're teaching, they're meeting, they're reviewing, they're getting critiqued on every game. So we wanted to give them the environment where that they could do their part of what they do. And I think that was more part and parcel of it than anything as well. I mean, our kids in our change room, we didn't do it for everything because the change rooms were in and out. Yeah. We gave them a set room in the facility. We had our own set room in the facility, and our players have their own name badges over theirs as well, as do all the athletes that have facility training room, Ontario Tech and ourselves that have change rooms on site. We all have the same setup, and we do it in volleyball, basketball. Ken just tries to treat it as a very professional environment all the time, which is fun for the athletes and makes a great place to Durham come, because you're going to get treated well.
And that's the key, is that you want it to entice players, but at the same time, you want to give that professional atmosphere in case they get to go on and play at the next level, because then they're used to it. They know what to expect, and they're not wide-eyed, bushy-tailed the first day they go into the training facility. You mentioned the Nationals, and obviously let's get into that now. You had a great run at home, 3 wins all the way through. How did you kind of make every game plan up, and how did you adjust to stuff? Because obviously 3 games, there's a lot that's going to have to be adjusted. What was maybe the biggest adjustment you made?
Well, as I'd mentioned previously, we lost, we were bringing a player back in and we had lost a player. So we lost a starting midfielder. And so we went through a lot of thought processes. We had a couple of groups come in and run with us that week. We had a no tackle rule. So we were playing games. Everything looked 100 miles an hour. It was really, really good, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to be quick. A couple of schools came in and just, ran with us. Like I said, no tackling rules. So it was back and forth, back and forth. So we had lost our starting midfielder. So I think part and parcel of what we were trying to wrap our heads around as a coaching staff is how are we going to start the first game against Douglas College? We had watched some games. We kind of knew the style of soccer that they played. So we were well adjusted for that. But for us, it was how do we maintain our speed? So what we did was we dropped our striker, Joshua Lee, into the center midfield with Lerone Young, and we brought in Jeremy Bangla, who the year before had been the conference leading goal scorer. And in the exhibition games, it all looked fantastic. In the first game against Douglas College, Jeremy was doing well, but we were missing something. Our team speed was neutralized because Jeremy's that big in the box guy. He's going to get in the box. If you get the ball wide, if we'd have been able to get the ball wide against him and get it in the box, it may have looked different. But for us, and also a big part of what we wanted to do is we defended high. We wanted to defend from the front. So Joshua does a lot of work back and forth, forcing the play so we can force teams into uncomfortable areas. We can dispossess and then counterattack is what we're really good at. So about 25 minutes in, I'm like, I think we need to change it. We'd had this kid on the bench, Jose Flores, been with us for 3 years, but we'd always had a hamstring issue with him. And we had sat him out earlier in the year and made him miss it. He's like, I'm ready to go, coach. I wouldn't let him come on the big long road trip with us, even though he's ready to go, because I just didn't want him sitting on a bus. So a lot of the decisions we made as a coaching staff through the season, we're building to what of my squad is going to be the best that's available November 6th to November 9th. So about 30 minutes in, I said, okay, we're going to make a change at halftime. It was still 0-0. I'm like, make a change at halftime. I'm okay with it. Jose, go warm up as though you're doing a full pregame warm up. So there's no quick warm up. I blow them up, and then I've lost another player for the championships, which was vital to us.
Right.
So we got Jose warmed up. We went down in about 37th, 38th minute, I think, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there. We gave up a sloppy goal in the corner kick. I go in at halftime, and I'm like, guys, we played fantastic. We had a great first half. We're going to make one change, though. You know, Jeremy, I'm sorry, you're going to come out. Jose's going to go in. He's warming up, ready to go. Josh, you're going to go back up high, and Lerone, you're going to adjust to having Jose in the midfield. But he'd played with Jose earlier in the season, so it wasn't a big fit, not a misfit for us.
Right.
And what ended up happening is we go out and we score in the 47th minute, the 51st minute, and by I think 9 minutes, I think for the 54th minute, I think we scored 3 goals in like 9 minutes. But they were all hard, fast goals. The difference between having Joshua with pace up front versus Jeremy looking to get it in the box was dynamic for us. It was something we needed, and they struggled with it. And like literally, we opened them up, and then for the rest of the game it was just cruise control. They had a couple of guys nipping at a couple of our guys because they were getting frustrated that they were losing and they weren't getting anywhere. But at the same time, I think the change there. So really, that injury going back to Sheridan game, that we bring our captain and left back in. Yeah. That was a big bonus for us. Our defense was back to what we wanted it to be. We'd given up very few goals during the season. Then you go to having to make that midfield decision. And it's not we got it wrong. It's just the dynamic of what we needed at that moment. And what I had studied for 2 years about being at nationals, I had to put back into play because we weren't that team for the first 45 minutes of the game.
Right.
And again, no disrespect to Jeremy as a player, but his dynamic and where he fit in as a big in the box type of striker, more traditional old school striker versus a guy that can move and come off the ball. And part of our thing too is that we were always sliding Lerone. Lerone's a striker, but he likes to come back for the ball. So we played a 4-1-4-1 system where we hid Lerone in the midfield and let him be creative. So if the ball went out wide, a lot of teams don't pay attention to what's coming from the midfield. If he's not marked, Lerone was getting in at the back post. And that's how we scored our second goal.
Right. They
turned off to him. He snuck in around the back, ball got played in. He's at the back post, blasting the roof of the net. And they're like, where did he come from? Maybe offside.
That works.
Just floated through
yeah.
because they weren't paying attention to him. And that's how we looked to play. That's how we enticed our second or third striker into the box with our speed out wide. So I think experimentation, having a plan and being adaptable to the plan was the biggest thing for us. We knew what we wanted. It was just that at that moment, was it right? No, it's not. What adjustments can we make? So a simple in-game adjustment that we recognized pretty early, but we wanted to be, I didn't want to put them out with 5 minutes left in the first half and say, okay, their dynamics changed. Let Douglas College adjust to this.
Right.
I wanted it to be a surprise and us to come out differently than what they expected because they weren't expecting, because Josh in the midfield really didn't show his pace because he's working at different rate. His work rate is different. what he's doing for us in the midfield is different. So being able to inject that right at the start of the second half, I think really caught them off guard. And then from there, I thought we'd outplayed them. I mean, obviously other people have their own opinion of it, but I thought we'd outplayed them and we were very comfortable with the game. And then I think that just that adjustment, and then we became comfortable with the game. We defended well. They didn't really trouble us much more after that for the rest of the game. And we came out with a wonderful 3-1 win in our first game.
And it was a big one because it propelled you forward, because you followed that up, the 3-1 victory, with another 2-0 victory over Red Deer. And then you find yourself in the final. Walk us through the final. Walk us through the emotion, everything that happened in that match, because it had to be an emotion-filled one. No matter what, it's a final. So
I think probably more for me, it was emotional than anything, right? Because now we're in the final. So I already know going into the game, and I hadn't really talked about much of 20 years before. We had a wonderful coaching program at Durham College with Stan Bombino, Tony LaFerrera prior to that, and Vaso Vujanovic. So they were there. So what we had done is they were the special chair people for the event, and they were deciding on MVPs and stuff like that. So for one, having them there every game, watching every game, was really, really cool for me. I think we did a really good piece with that. So trying to impress them. So I hadn't really discussed. I had Stan, and I'd invited them to speak to the team.
Right.
Especially Stan being the last coach that had been in 20 years ago, because I took over from Stan. And so I had them come speak to the team, but we really didn't. I think Stan may have brought his bronze medal with him, but I know going into the final, I said, wow, we've accomplished more now as a soccer team in the CCAA thing. So for me, I was kind of there. But it was kind of cool. We had a meeting Friday night. We had the Friday off. We had a team meeting. We went through the tendencies. We'd picked up on how VIU were scoring goals against some of the other teams from set pieces. So we just put our plan in place to eliminate that as much as possible. They had the I can't think of his name, the young Japanese player there, just unbelievable server of the ball. We really had to be careful of what he did. So our whole plan was about neutralizing his ability to play forward, and then neutralizing by trying not to give away set pieces. We felt if we could do that, we'd be successful. So going in, the emotions were really good. I found it really cool. I felt really good after watching the guys come into the change room. You know how you can normally tell? We'd use the same starting 11 that we finished Douglas College with against Red Deer, got a couple of guys out. But we were going in, we'd set on our 11. These are 11. Everyone's played 3 games in 4 days. So we're not starting any new, plus or minus here. Right. It's not like one team had been sitting out for a week before they came. They're a lot fresher. We were all on the same legs.
Yep.
So the starting 11 were just calm. It was just neat to see. Lerone, a phenomenal leader, kept everyone there. His quirky sense of humor. We'd actually done our thing. Guys would score goals and he'd yell out with this British, fake British accent, "That's all right." So we actually had warm-up shirts that had the expression "That's all right" put on it. A little bit of team bonding, a little bit of team chemistry, a little bit of fun for the guys, right? I remember putting them in there just as we started nationals, even before the Douglas game, and you just heard the change room erupt because they were just having fun with it. We walked out, we left the guys, and they all saw it, and they just thought it was the neatest thing, right? So just getting set. So the emotion really I was calm. I have a routine. I go in, I talk to the guys. I try not to overthink, say too much. Jens will fix something that we've discussed tactically. So we kind of have our easy beasy. I'm the bad guy in the change room. I'm the guy that makes a point of stuff. Jens is a refocuser. And then we come out. So by then I'm out. I'm sitting on the bench. I'm just looking around the field. So as the game started, I just felt relaxed. I just saw the way we started the game, and we had a good warm up. Paramount for us. We had a good warm up, and then from there it was kind of you know what? I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah. And
then we just let the game. And the reality is the game is the way the game is. We're not you don't see us up in the coach's box screaming and yelling all the time. We're not. We're calm. We're generally on the thing. We'll make adjustments if we have to. If something's not going well, I might raise, but I'll bring my voice right back down right away because it's over with, and they know that. If I make a point, listen, we move on, and we play. We let them play. They're really young men. They need to be able to play without me saying, Johnny's open, Peter's open, Paul's open. We just let them play. We try not to overmanage them so that they're relaxed and they play.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to do as a coach for sure, is to try to take that step back. So the game ends 3-2. You guys end up winning. the celebration afterwards. I obviously, you mentioned how much it meant to the school, being that that was the first time hosting and winning the championship. What was it like seeing the boys celebrate, seeing the university or the college come together and celebrate like they did?
Well, I mean, the thing that stuck to me is as the games going on, the first couple of games were kind of cool. I know our president had been in Ireland, but I was aware of his presence during the game. So we had the press box, our bench. We've got those nice, big, quick goal benches anchored to the ground. We're tucked in on the nice, cushy seats. But you'd stand up a couple of times as you're walking back to the bench. I could see the crowd was getting bigger and bigger and bigger behind my bench because the way it's set up. So people in the press box were coming down the more the game went on.
Yeah.
And then some really good friends of mine had somehow managed to sneak around to that side. So it was the emotion as the game was ending, and it was that really big tackle at the end kind of blocked it. We got the free kick, and at that point I go, that's 3+ minutes. We're done. This game is over. We've won. So I think I turned around at that point, kind of excited, and I may have used a profanity, which I don't do very often. And the thing, I think I looked at pretty much the whole administration for the college and went, ladies and gentlemen, that's how you win a national championship. And I giggled, high-fived my coaches. Big thing for me is respect. I'd actually tried to sneak down the sideline to get closer to shaking hands with the other team, no matter win or lose. If they'd have won, I would have done the same thing.
Yep.
Got held up, went down, said my things to them, came back, hugged my staff. And by then I see the players are just everywhere. Their parents were excited. Josh's dad had the drum at every game. Boom. And it actually got broken in the championship game. It was kind of funny, whatever that thing. There's a picture after our semifinal win where, oh God, good goodness, Tyreek is on the sideline and he's banging he's got the drum and he's banging the drum and all the fans are going crazy. So it was really cool because a lot of the athletes from other teams, a lot of them were able to experience, really it was a school, for me it was a school win, not only an individual win. Our guys were so excited. They got their t-shirts, they sang, and they kept saying, that's all right, every time there was a picture taken. The president was over the moon. We always joke, you kind of know our campus. We have the university and we have the college. So there's this little unique rivalry. And every year we play a preseason 60-minute campus cup game for this trophy that looks like a little glass bowl, something like this, not with a candle in it though. So it's just a little crystal vase. So we had lost 1-0 to them this year. Like the president before the game had looked at me and joked with me and said, hey, I need to get that bragging rights back on campus. I said, sir, I got to be honest. I go, gold medal or cheesy, glass vase? And he laughed at me. So he came over and was like, hey, you got me my gold medal. Thank you. And it was thing. And you know what? Just a class of the CCAA overall, the athletic director and I forget, Stephanie, I think is from Vancouver Island University. She came over and congratulated me. There was just so many people coming and going. So that was kind of a blur for me. So I know the players were celebrating, but I might have missed some of it too, because Ken's grabbing me, the president's grabbing, like all these different people, the coaches from the past were grabbing me. So I didn't really interact with them till a little bit later. I mean, we all hugged in the change room. They sang songs. I mean, we took, we got a couple of poses right after when we got the trophy. Then I had a team picture done with the big banner down by the thing. I wanted that frameable moment for the school and for myself selfishly. But one of the big things we do too at the school is I always try to make the athletes remember that they're not where they are today if it isn't for their parents. We have so many kids with, go through struggles now, as we all know. There's broken families, there's single mom families, single father families. There's just so many dynamics that make up a team. And it's being able to get them all cohesive. So what I do is after we had our pictures, I just asked every parent that was there to come in, and they didn't intermingle with their child as much as we did with the OUA picture a couple of years ago, but they were all in the picture. I wanted a picture of the family, because to me, that's an extension of the team. Because without them and the values they've taught their children, we probably wouldn't have them on the team, because I'm a principled person about respect. And we've had to maneuver people off of our squad over the years that just don't fit the family, the culture, and the respect that I demand for you being a Durham Lord.
You talk about the respect and you talk about the personality traits. So I kind of want to transition here now and talk about, as a coach, when you're recruiting, when you're going out and watching these young players, who you might get on the team, is there a specific personality trait, something off the field? Obviously, the on the field stuff is very, very easy to track. You can watch that in a game. It's the off the field stuff that I'm curious about, a personality trait, something that you look for when you're recruiting a player.
I don't necessarily look for a specific personality trait. What I'm looking at is their interaction pregame, postgame with their teammates. And I'm looking and even their family members. Sometimes if you've got a young kid in mind that you really like and you know he's interested in the school, you may step back or make yourself almost invisible to watch how they react to their family. Are they terse with their family? Are they respectful of their family? Because I think respect, if you've got respect in that environment, then it comes over thing. The second thing I'm really big at and thing was, I don't say that we win or lose recruiting battles, because the kids have to be adults enough to make a decision. So I look at it that if they want to be a Durham Lord, I'm going to show them everything that they want to know about Durham College. I will not get into a bartering exercise over what little limited finances some of us have or others do or don't have. If you want to be a Durham Lord, then we can worry about the essentials later. I promise you, like if you're coming and I got X number of budget, I'm playing with that budget, but I want you to commit to the school, because if you're not committed to the school from the beginning, then this becomes an exercise. I'm just here for sports, and what are you going to give me? They don't become good teammates. Lerone Young was a year away from coming back to university after spending 2 years at Humber College some 3 or 4 years ago. He found out we had nationals. He approached me. I want to be part of it, coach. Then come on in, Lerone. But we didn't talk about anything to do with me as assisting him, if we could, until he came to the school and was committed to being an athlete. And he showed himself really early and became one of my 2 captains. But I mean, that's the bonus one, but you get a lot of the others. I mean, I spent even last year and even this year, people, what can you give me? What can you, well, no, this is what I can offer you. I'm offering you a good education. I'm offering you some of the top programs in the country. On top of that, I'm offering you a chance to play on the Durham College men's team. I've taken people I've given scholarships to or academic scholarships to away the next year because they didn't fit within the mantra of our team, or they took for granted that they were, I've got a scholarship, I'm going to be on the team. We can't give a lot of money. So, and I don't get it back. So if I take it off of someone, it's not like I get it back. I get a set amount every year, and those kids get to keep it as long as they're in school, as long as they behave and are all part of the team. So I've had to do that over the years, because you realize, you know what, I made a decision, and you as a coach have to be able to accept the fact that sometimes you make decisions that maybe didn't work out. And when it doesn't work out, it's nothing against the athletes. I still mentor many of the kids that have left the school and try to help them any way I can, that maybe started on the team and didn't play for another year. I'm big at trying to do that, but at the same time, sometimes you have to look at things. So when I built that squad, it was built for purpose, and it wasn't perfect. We had a couple of things that happened during the year that we had to deal with, but in dealing with them, it just brought the group even stronger. And I think that's the thing. You've got to sometimes recognize as a coach how to make your group stronger. And sometimes it gets stronger by subtraction. Sometimes it gets stronger by addition. But it's you as a coach recognizing the balance of your team, being fair to players 1 through 23, not raising the expectations of that 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22 player. And there's a couple of kids that made decisions, like our third goalkeeper. Love the kid to death, but he made a decision that he just didn't want to be the third goalkeeper another year, nationals or not. So you have to respect those decisions, right? And I think that's recognizing what keeps your group focused, because it's motivating the group.
Yeah.
And in the end, when it comes to playing, like I said, we're not loud, we're not this, because they're given the tools in training. You have to let them play.
Yep. No, I think I agree with you 100%. And you kind of got into my next question that I wanted to ask. So I'm going to ask it anyway, see if the answer changes. But if you were able to talk to a group of young coaches, people who are just breaking into coaching at the youth levels or the collegiate level or whatever level, what is one piece of advice that you would give them to make them a better coach? Not necessarily tactic wise, but just make them a better coach.
Well, I mean, it's the paradigm shift that we've had from the autocratic way we used to coach as more as the collaborative. Like, you have to have a feel for your team. You have to understand that you're going to have positives and negatives, and it's keeping it neutral. It's about fairness and having a clear message. It's a lot different in youth soccer because the expectation, a parent expectation, is that you're going to, my kid, I pay $1,000, my kid's going to get to play.
Right.
So the coaches in the youth level have it a lot tougher than a college coach, because my first talk of the year is, guys, if you're on the team, there's no guarantee this. What we look for is players that are committed to being part of the squad, players committed to being part of the mission. The expectation years ago, and the way university kind of runs is, a couple of years, you earn your starting spot, and maybe junior, senior year, you're a starter. We have such a high turnover that my first speech is you'll earn or lose your starting spot. My challenge to the guys that run the squad the year before: do you want to keep your squad number? Or do you want to lose it?
Yeah.
My challenge to the new people coming in: do you want a squad number? Do you not want to make the team? Do you want a squad number? Do you want to steal a starter squad number?
Yeah.
And it changes from year to year. Like I said, Jeremy, fantastic year in 2018, scored like leading goal scorer, but in 2019 he wasn't a starter. He was a sub for us. So roles evolve, but it's also, when you have to make decisions like that, it's managing those people. So just be honest. This is where you fit in. Welcome that conversation. And sometimes rather than you do it, you kind of mention the change, but you don't go on about it. You don't belabor them. You don't demean them. You've got to keep them positive, but always welcome that I'm always available to you by text or by thing to let me know that you'd like to chat, but I always converse with them face to face. I don't get into the texting game. I'm not a big fan of it, because too many negative things, or you can take stuff too personally if a word is misspelled. I believe in looking person in face to face. I had to make a tough decision last year where I had to let a guy go. He was upset at me for making him come to the field to tell him my decision, as opposed to me phoning him.
Yeah.
And as I said to him, a good coach will look you face to face, eye to eye, and not rumor, not innuendo. I'm dealing with you one-on-one, and I'm going to say it to you personally, so that if you're upset at me, then I can also learn from that. What could I have done differently? And I think that's the biggest thing that I can offer to youth coaches, is be honest, be humble with your players, be collaborative with your players, but you lay out the expectations. There still has to be a bit of management as opposed to always leadership, right? So that coaching realm is going into almost like the business world. You have to have the manager, have to set the parallel, but I can also sling into the leadership role where I'm being collaborative, I'm having fun with them. And not, we joke a lot. I'm not all serious. I'm on them. They slip up and I find something out, coach is going to make fun of them. Not disrespectfully, and nothing that would ever hurt anybody, but and sometimes
you take the jabs when you get the chance, right?
And sometimes it's nice for you to have a poke at something that they think they got away with, but they don't realize you know about.
Yeah.
So they let you know that you're more in tune and more aware than they think you are.
And that's definitely helpful. I think it's just a nature thing. You want that around that kind of environment. I want to switch topics quickly, because we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about COVID and the impact it's had on collegiate sports. How have you managed the last, I guess, year now with your squad, trying to keep everyone focused, trying to keep them just mentally healthy, I guess, at this point?
Well, it's been really, the one thing I give paramount to is Ken at the school. We're one of like 4 schools in the whole province that is open for a little bit of training right now. A lot of the schools, a lot of my other coaches, they've got nothing going on. They're trying to recruit, but they're doing nothing. So we missed out on our recruiting period last year, where we kind of bring players and meet with players. We're going through the same this year. So for me, it's adjusting to the virtual meetings. It's adjusting to texting, emails, phone conversations to discuss interests of players. And then obviously using the people I know to do the research on, is this going to be a good fit for Durham College? If this player even comes to the school, you sometimes like to know that ahead of time. You've got a player in your mind, you might have 150 kids. And then it's just, 50% of them right away you can eliminate. So then it's starting to whittle it down over that week or 10 days that you used to do it.
Right.
So last year was hard. A lot of our guys were upset a lot. We had some guys that were coming back to school simply because they wanted to try and defend the championship. That wasn't going to happen. So I think having the ability to go back and at least defend with an OUA, like, it's so strong. Humber, Fanshawe, Seneca, Centennial, George Brown, their programs are evolving. Patrice at Seneca's taken their program from it slipped and boom, it's right back up at the top in 1 year. like the perennial powerhouses, Humber, Sheridan, like I said, Fanshawe is always good. St. Clair, like they're all coming. Algonquin, Mike at Algonquin just runs an amazing program. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. What coaches are still there?
Yeah.
For us, for myself with my team specifically, the fall, I had a small group and I tried to encourage some of the new kids, but it was kind of what's in it for me. Am I making the team? I guaranteed a spot for 2021. And I'm like, let me make straight here. We don't guarantee anybody a spot on the squad. They got to earn it. And then some of my senior players had a conversation. So we kind of sat out the fall a little bit. It kind of went against everything that Ken was trying to push, but Ken was is always so respectful of the decisions we make with our own team. It was feeling the teams. The players that I had left, a lot of them come from diverse backgrounds, single parent backgrounds, and that involves them having some senior members of their family living with them. So some of them just simply because they just didn't want to go out and come back, and they were even skipping their own soccer. So you have to listen to your players. No different than during the season. You have to be in tune with them. We're getting back into training a little bit right now, but I'm keeping it small. I don't want to give anybody false hope that I'm going to put them on a squad.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing. Hey, I trained with the Durham team. I should be this. Normally we would use this as an advantage, some of the new people coming in right now, but we're just not able to do that. So it's refocusing, it's getting back in contact. I think I'm due to have 6 players back. I have a couple of transfers that are in. So the reality is I'm about half my squad right now, and then it's just building for the thing. So really the motivation, I mean, our school has done a phenomenal job. We have ETS, Elite Training Systems, heavily involved with the school. They're doing 2 times a week in person, or they were doing virtual when we couldn't do anything, working with the athletes, trying to just give them a healthy mental attitude. They may not be at their peak fitness, but just mentally doing something, getting involved. We're getting back into the training a little bit. My guys have been a little slow with the paperwork. They got upset Coach Dave last week, but I mean, sometimes you kind of have to raise the bar to bring the bar back down. And they realize, like, guys, we have to get going. Like, okay, you got your way in the fall. You're not getting your way in the spring. So it's just managing through the COVID process. And for myself, I mean, I'm a frontline worker. So it was tough for me because I was out in it 4 days out of every 8 and more if needed. When we had some unfortunate COVID go through our organization, like, you're filling in, you're helping out. So I was out in it. I was exposed to it an awful lot more than a lot of people, and just watching families struggle. So for me, mentally, it was a little bit of a struggle too. How can I motivate myself to go do something fun, such as coaching, and enjoy that athlete coach bond, when myself, I'm watching all these families struggle, people not working, businesses closed. So I had a little bit of a mental, like, especially the fall was a little tough for me there with that, because now soccer's gone. That great caveat that I have, that mental break, for me was gone. And I didn't realize how much I'd miss it until the time I was supposed to be doing it. And then just a whole going through and knowing that we didn't get to go to a Hunzik, even to watch, or the chance to defend the championship. I felt bad for the players. And I felt really bad for the athletes of the school. You figure all these high school kids trying to come in their first year, like high school, university, doesn't matter where it is like all these athletes have struggled. But at the end of the day, my bigger thing was, well, you're blessed because you get to play a sport, and we're going to get to go back to playing sports at some point very soon, hopefully. But there's so many people struggling. And so I think dealing with the COVID for us was giving the athletes, rather than forcing them to do something, was give them that ability to make decisions for themselves, starting to get that adult piece out of them. What decision are you going to make? Whatever you make, I'll respect.
And that's a great way to put it. I think that's probably one of the better ways to handle the situation. Telling them that they're going to make it is not the right way to go about it, because you just don't know what's going to happen in the next month, let alone next 5-6 months before the season starts. So
yeah, like I said, obviously we're sitting waiting. I know the OUA and the OCAA are trying to put good back to playing programs in, but there's going to be that line of the vaccines, who's got it, who doesn't have it. Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? None of us know. And I know they're working so diligently to try and reestablish student life as soon as possible, and student athletics being part of it. I know the school is working extremely hard. We get updates regularly. So for us, we don't know what our season is going to look like. Is it an exhibition season if we're even allowed to play? Is it a little regional season? Is it Where are we going to get to go to nationals? Are we going to have OUs? Like, nobody knows. I think the spirit in all of it, though, is that the schools recognize that as soon as possible, we need to get back to some sort of semi-competition, so that I mean, the reality is the longer we go, I think some stuff's going to get eliminated, and we may, we're going to get to play. It's just how we get to play. So again, it's motivating the players too, right? Like, if they decide there's no nationals this year, then, do we motivate them? Does that third-year guy that just won a gold medal 2 years ago want to come back and play soccer? Like, how, and then that could affect our rebuild as well. So a lot of the coaches are sitting back on, what are our parameters? What are we working? Getting lots of calls right now, but it's just like, I'm honest, straight up. I don't know the parameters just yet. I don't know if we're going to be allowed to start August 15th, or we're going to get told September 15th. Like, we just don't know. And I think that's the hard part for the athletes, again, is that second season. And like I said, Ken Babcock and the staff at Durham College have been paramount in trying to drive the mental health of our athletes and students as a whole, with intramurals and stuff, back into play. And I think as coaches, that's what we have to embrace. We have to embrace what the others are doing, but at the same time, be respectful of how each coach views their own team and what guidelines is. There's no point in having them resent me for forcing them to do something they don't want to do.
I agree completely. Well, Coach, that's all I got for you. Thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure listening to you and learning about that experience that you had in 2019. Best of luck repeating when you get a chance, either in 2021 or 22. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. I appreciate what you're doing, getting the messages out there, and just putting, I think it's fantastic, the series that you and Julian are trying to put together for everybody here. Different perspectives are key to what make us all good as coaches, because my perspective may be different in the eyes of somebody else, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is, especially in student athletics, is to make them student athletes. And being in this realm really is a life lesson to how they can succeed in life and business and whatever venture they take on after schooling.
I agree 100%, Coach. So thank you again. If you're looking for more postcoach.ca stuff, please check out their YouTube channel. If you're looking for the Garage Door Sports Network, check us out as well. And we will see you next time on the Champion Series.